really does seem like the UAW and the big three automakers are very far apart. They have not announced any agreements so far on any of their central demands.
Which side are you on? Which side are you on?
So the UAW announced last week, that they are going to be having a strike authorization vote this week. And that's really big news, especially in the context of, I was listening to a podcast. No, I was on Twitter, and somebody made note of this, that during this time, and actually months before the equivalent time in the Teamsters negotiations, they were already announcing wins in the contract, non-economic wins. 2 tiers were eliminated, AC in trucks, stuff like this, right? They were coming out, almost every week or at least every month with a new something. And none of that has happened with the UAW and the big three automakers. And so that would lead... that led this person on Twitter, and I think it makes sense. That led them to believe that the UAW and the big three are really far apart, and the big three is just really not taking this seriously, and that tracks with the way that their executives have been acting during these negotiations. We told you last week about how Mark Stewart, the COO of Stellantis, was found to be, spending weeks in his second multi-million-dollar home in Mexico on vacation during negotiations. And then he, had an interview with the press where he was wearing a $30,000 watch.
Jeez.
Telling the UAW that they need to focus on economic reality. And he's, in this...
I'm looking at your watch. That's the economic reality.
Right, yeah. I don't think that's realistic, having a $30,000 watch. Having a watch that costs more than your employees get paid in a year, some of them, I don't think that's economically realistic. So, give the union your watch, and maybe they'll let you keep the rest of your clothes, and then pay your workers what they're worth. Really, really kind of galling stuff. And, if you look up the picture of him from this press conference, it's really just kind of gross. I don't have an issue with, people dressing bombastically or whatever, I'm fine with it. Doesn't really, it's not an issue for me. But doing that while you are being interviewed, talking about how your employees need to be realistic. Google Mark Stewart, Stellantis press, economic realism or whatever. And you're going to see this ghoul in a white suit with flowers on it and a $30,000 watch. And, look, I wore a white suit to my wedding. White suits are fine. But the idea that, this is like a business thing, and these people, they don't respect the people that create the value. Like the $30,000 that paid for that watch, that was created by some fella or some woman standing on the line for hours and hours and hours, breaking their back, losing limbs and fingers and stuff like that. And then he is wearing all of that time that they spent creating the value. He's wearing it on his wrist like a trinket. It's just so gross. So, it really does seem like the UAW and the big three automakers are very far apart. They have not announced any agreements so far, unlike the Teamsters, on any of their central demands, like the ending of tiers, increasing vacation time, limiting the use of subcontracting and temporary workers, the right to strike over plant closures, an end to plant closures, stuff like this. All of that is, they haven't announced any wins on any of this. And so last week on Tuesday, Sean Fain had, he did another one of his live updates on Facebook and YouTube, and he announced that the following week that the union would be holding a strike authorization vote. So that's what they're going to be doing this week, and we will presumably be able to come back to you next week on the next show and tell you what the results were. And strike authorization votes are a pretty routine thing during union negotiations, and they usually come back pretty high. So the question is going to be really, how high is it? Is it going to be 96, 97, 98, 99% of UAW members authorizing a strike? We're just going to have to see. And, but there's a very real possibility that 150,000 auto workers go on strike in the middle of September, right after Labor Day on September 14th, against the big three automakers. And, it's going to be a really big deal. Absolutely going to be a big deal. I know that I'm going to go, I'll be out on the picket lines as soon as possible. I will probably be headed to UAW Local 1853 in Spring Hill, Tennessee at the GM plant. That I was on their picket line in 2019 when GM struck. So that's where that's the closest one for me. So that's where I'll be heading. So if you want to hang out with us over there, then feel free to do that. But very big news, and going to be very consequential if there is a strike. 150,000 workers. You just saw a clip from the Valley Labor Report. We are live every Saturday morning from 9:30 a.m. till 12:30 p.m. And we pride ourselves on keeping all of our content free to everybody so that we can talk to as many working folks as possible. If you support the work that we're doing, you think that it's important, you think that it's good, then consider making a monthly contribution to the project, and you can do that on our website, tvlr.fm.